Welcome to the Didi and Lital Show. Advice, thoughts, and stories from a married couple on cybersecurity, technology, and life in general. Now here are your hosts, Didi and Lital.
Hello, and welcome to the Didi and Lital Show. How are you doing, Didi?
Bill Belichick is away, and nothing has changed. The Patriots will still suck another season. We signed Jacoby Brissett, which I think Drone will be a better quarterback than, and all the team from the Browns. So if we're trying to go for a 1-15 season, we're definitely heading in the right direction. So that's how my week started. How about you?
All good. Well, I think spring has sprung. It's nice outside whenever it's not raining because Boston has recently become Seattle, like with winter with no snow, but a lot of rain.
Yes.
So I think we're becoming the Pacific North.
Yes. But at least the one thing they can't take away from us, and that's why I'm wearing green, St. Paddy's is here.
Yeah,
Yes.
this weekend.
This weekend, St. Paddy's is here. Yes.
Are you going to the pub?
No, because I'm boycotting the Dropkick Murphys for supporting the MTA. So, fuck them.
I remember the time you took me to the show.
Yeah, they have an awesome show, but
Paddy.
now, like the Montreal Canadiens, they are dead to me.
Okay.
So
Yes.
that's kind of I completely agree with Felger. There's things that you hate with a vengeance.
Well,
If the Canadians never win a cup ever again in my lifetime, I'll be a happy man. I'll die a happy man.
Well, the Newton Teacher Association seems to be bankrupt. They sent a request this week for, swag.
They plan to sell or reuse swag. That's the part that you missed.
Yeah. That was funny.
Yes. It's like worn jerseys.
They can do a bake sale. I recommend the bake sale.
No. Selling
thing.
worn jerseys is like awesome.
Well-
Yes, this T-shirt was worn by Mrs. Blah 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 from healthcare.
You would buy a T-shirt of some of those. Let's not talk about it.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. We are digressing.
Yes.
We are going to the sewer. Like,
Yeah, so nation state attacks is on the news or this fear-mongering or maybe real fear about Chinese espionage. Two things happened this week. There was a story about cranes in ports in the U.S., which comes pre-assembled, comes straight from China. Apparently, most of the cranes in U.S. ports today are manufactured in China. There are no manufacturers of those big cranes in the U.S.
and in Germany?
There are options to in Europe, but they cost almost twice as much. So many of the ports just got them from China. And somebody realized that inside there is a modem, a remote access capability that potentially the Chinese can access. And now there are a lot of discussions of what to do. Can this be manufactured in the U.S.? There are talks about potentially using a Japanese company to work with a U.S.-based company and get it locally manufactured. Some mentioned the worry about espionage because most of the commercial ports are located really adjacent to military ports,
Sometimes
military bases.
Sometimes it's the same thing, like San
Sometimes,
Francisco and Presidio.
Right, Charleston, South Carolina. So that there is a real concern that it will be used to some sort of espionage. I think that the thing of thinking about it as an espionage is a little bit too far. I mean, I'm not an expert, but it does sound like potentially a remote access to just shut it off from working when they decide
Or
that
Stuxnet
doomsday.
it. Or just Stuxnet it.
Yeah,
you know
like
what?
make it work slower.
Make it work slower. Disrupt thing.
Disrupt the economy so that we'll have, slower supply chain and inflation will go up. Also in the news this week, again, a ban on TikTok is potentially coming up. All this kind of conversations, is TikTok national threat? Is it individual threat. Experts say, on one hand, it could pose propaganda. Nobody knows what's
The algorithm.
The algorithm is. The algorithm is way more predefined than even on Facebook. When you have like a scroll down, you can choose, you can get out there. It's like showing in your face. There were some.
Is Gemini better?
That's completely different.
No, but I'm saying controlling the algorithm.
All the algorithms are pretty bad.
Yes, because you can get
The YouTube algorithm.
you can get California woke, or you can get China and Putin marketing
conglomerates on
Exactly.
Cambridge Analytica, and also there is this. It's on each and every device in the U.S. So
Not
can
on
it
mine.
be used? Not at mine as well. Can it be used as an espionage tool, malware, collecting information about Americans and spying on them? So a lot to cover, and
Yes.
and I think I want to cover it from this angle about what do people in the security space like us, what CISOs, practitioners, need to think about. Also
And need
all
to do.
those threats that we've seen, the Russian hacking into and Chinese hacking, persistent hacking into Microsoft, code that was leaked. So nation state seems to be a main concern, but we all know that for the day-to-day practitioners, this is not necessarily, it's a little bit punching above
Their weight
weight.
class. Their weight class.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, can you really handle in a team of, I don't know, 10 security practitioners, can you really handle the big nation states?
No, you can't.
You can't. So should you even bother?
Yes.
Should you think about it? And what are the potential risks? So I'll let you chime in and let's talk about that.
So I'll start by posting a very contrarian view, which is I think there's a big chunk of people just being uselessly paranoid and fear mongering inside the borders of the U.S. And this is where I would love if the central government actually grow up here and have a position, a strong position, a clear position on this thing. And I'll tell you why. Because
Can I say something first? This is not new.
this is not new.
Like you have been, and we talked about it in the first few episodes of this podcast. Go
Yes.
back and check it out. There is a breach.
Yes. So I cannot confirm or deny.
No,
But
it was already in the news.
do you want me to go to jail? I'm under NDA.
Sam Carey already
Sam
talked about it.
Sam can talk about whatever Sam wants. So what Sam Curry said, and I cannot confirm or deny, is that that China hacked us at RSA. Now, if you have a problem with that, go Sam.
And that's like
And that's
14 years ago.
That's 14 years ago. That was before Omri was born. It was March.
No, he was born.
20,
March 2010.
No.
Just after he was born.
Yeah, something along these lines. It's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Maybe 2011.
2011. Who cares? It was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
So nothing new.
Nothing is new.
They breached it as a way to potentially get to critical customers.
Yes. So this is kind of where something needs to evolve. So the federal government today, if you need to generate something for the FDA, you need to submit a bill of material, a complete, detailed bill of material. There's whole technologies that deal with generating bills of material to tell you where each part of the device, when you create like medical devices and things like that, you create like a full list of bill of materials of exactly where each part has been assembled and what it contains, and a whole bunch of things.
Is it to get FDA approval if you have a medical device? Is that what you're saying?
Something along
like
these lines.
you're buying a new X-ray machine, you're building.
Yep.
Do you need? So you're submitting to the FDA.
A full list of bill of materials.
Is somebody checking it?
I don't know. I don't care. But this is the part where the government actually needs to the right hand meet left hand, right hand meet left hand. Somebody in like a government CISO needs to take a look at all these things and all these bills of materials and all these things and understand what's there, what's not, what's manufactured, and define what is critical infrastructure and what's not. Because this is the part where if you are critical infrastructure and you're in the path, you need to have X amount of support from the government to actually augment your security team and actually have practices that kind of understand where you are as a critical infrastructure. Like there's this Banana Republic in the Middle East. You might have heard of it. They do have a government body that governs what is critical infrastructure, what's not critical infrastructure. Because you mentioned that the milk company is owned by China, and who the fuck cares? Ignore dairy. You know, I do. That's your problem with your cottage cheese. I don't care. And you're not supposed to drink milk as an adult. But if that goes down, apparently the government doesn't care. But if the power company goes down or one of the cell company goes down, that is government. Now, is their strategy good, bad, smart, not smart? Because eventually you can collapse the infrastructure, the industry, by chasing ghosts everywhere.
Yeah, that's a problem. Like if you start chasing any bit of parts manufactured in China, we will get to everything.
Yes, but
I mean, I do think it's a good thing to kind of like get the withdrawal syndrome and go over and use parts from other places in the world. We are extremely reliant on China. That's how the world grew to become. And it's great to bring back manufacturing to the West. Great economically and stuff. We need to understand the price will be higher and it will take time. Because we lost the ability to produce those things.
I'm not sure that you're right, because there's also the other side. You bring back manufacturing to the West, now you're putting China in economic stress. And if they've left any of these things, this is what Russia did. There was like tons of malware, Zeus in the early 2000s, that basically had KGB fingerprints all over it. And what they did is they resold their malware technology to the
criminal gangs.
I would call
to
them,
whomever would want.
I would call them the entrepreneurs from the Russian economy, and that created
the entrepreneurs from the Russian economy are ex-FSB,
yes,
KGB,
exactly.
And hackers groups that now becoming criminal groups.
Well, criminal.
They have the knowledge, maybe the tools.
You say criminal, I say reclaim. But it is the point that their economy, it's not criminal where they are. So, and there's no international law that says that what they're doing is criminal.
Oh, there is.
No, there isn't. No, there isn't.
Well, once they get out of a few of them, once they...
The UN cannot choose the 3-ply toilet paper that goes into the toilets, not to mention put laws in place. So it's against the law in Interpol, yes. But that's not Russia. Well,
U.S. did arrest some Russian criminals once they got the food out of Russia. So it does happen. So just to get this point correctly, what I think you're saying is that there's a lot to care about because basically we have probably some sort of remote access malware in
everywhere.
We talked about Internet of Things and those devices that we have in our home.
There were picture frames.
A week ago.
There were picture frames that all they did was steal credit cards. There was a set of picture frames that were manufactured.
Why do you need to have picture frame connected to the internet? The ones that like present your pictures?
Yes. So they used to steal and sell credentials. They used to sniff on your network and steal and sell credentials.
So that is the point. I think we're getting to this point that first, I want to say something about TikTok before we get to that. Forget about, the national security thing. I think there is, and I heard my friends, and I call them friends. I really love them in the All In podcast. I wish they were my friends. I want to spend some time getting to know them. They said, forget about the espionage. It's just common trade between countries. Our social media, the American social media platforms are cannot be used in China. So it's okay to ban TikTok just for reciprocity. You don't let our internet platforms to be available for consumers there. Consumers here don't use your platforms. C'est tout. Enough. That's the point. Forget about the espionage and everything else. About the day-to-day CISOs and what we should actually care about, because we care less about espionage on our organization. It is important if you have kind of critical code or critical IP. Of course, you should care about the Chinese not copying your IP. But more than that, I think the concern with nation-state potential malware, remote access to your network, is that we've seen it over and over again, that nation states, to get monetized, they will sell this or have different groups use this access for ransomware and other causes to get money. So we don't know, but one day, potentially, somebody can use the remote access that China has into those medical devices or into
especially if you go into trade wars. If you go to trade wars right now, the pig butchering stuff, and we should probably have a dedicated episode about pig butchering.
Yeah, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's a fraud scheme operated mostly from China, which, it's mostly on texting. Somebody becomes a friend of somebody, texts for a long time, gain the trust, at the end of the day, butcher the pig, make them pay some money.
The idea is that the fraud actually doesn't make you send money. They make you believe that there's basically
somebody is sick.
They convince you
need to help.
They convince you to buy swampland in Florida, basically, or similar frauds. But the idea is that, and they're using crypto and things like that. But regardless of the idea, it is Chinese military funded.
Oh yeah, the huge buildings of with mini cells of each one is kind of promoting a small group of pigs that they will butcher at the end. So
and this is
it's a full operation.
If you can watch the John Oliver episode about that, and we can talk about it at another point in time. But it is an example of where nation state that basically promotes business to incur revenue, and nothing helps more than bringing in good old US dollars.
I mean, most of the revenue of North Korea is coming from hacking.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how they sponsored the whole nuclear program.
And that's another part, which is there's also a cascade. So a country manufactures things, sells the back doors to other countries that are in their kind of cluster, and they eventually turn. So it might not even be intended originally for criminal endeavor. And this comes back to the longevity of things in the world of IoT. Because we were talking a little bit of IoT, but you need to think of the longevity of things in the world of IoT.
Yeah, unlike hopefully your cell phone that you can quickly patch, those things are persistent.
Forget about patch. You replace the life.
You replace it.
The life of this is 5 years.
At most.
At most. The life
before you get it in the Uber.
Yes, the life of an MRI machine.
That's forever, right?
That's
20
forever.
years.
Some of these things run OS2. Some of these things run Windows XP. So if somebody
most of them run XP.
Something like this. So if one of them has one of those components, this is one of these things that somebody can come up and say, oh, you know what? We have these things embedded everywhere. Nobody thought about it. You know what? Let's...
There's all this old Russian malware that we can repurpose.
No, it's not. It's even more interesting. It's say, you know what? I have a component there that has dial-up. Let me just shut off the machine. A crane in a port, if that's shut down, that's $1 million a day, give or take, probably more. That's a lot of, that translates very, very fast into revenue of I have. I
Somebody will pay you $1 million just to turn it on.
I shut down your crane. Please turn. If you want, pay me money. And same goes for MRI machines. I need to go to Newton Wellesley at 6:30 a.m.
We have seen hospitals paying ransomware once they're under attack.
Yep. So this opens a lot of potential. Now, here's where I think the industry, our industry, needs to learn something from the healthcare industry. By the way, the healthcare industry is the most backward, back-ass industry in the world. I think it's even worse than education.
Why are you saying it?
Why do I say this?
Yep.
The Optum hack, they always choose the cheapest technology possible. They'll hire the cheapest people they can find. It's
it's a challenge, security in healthcare.
I agree. But they try to find the cheapest way to do this, and they always skimp on actually paying something. But they do have one thing right, which is the part of the bill of material. One of the things that people need to start understanding, when they are doing things, they need to understand their bill of materials. When I said 15 years ago, something like that all the industry will have to have standards like, back then it was, I think, LAC 70 or something like that. So, and now it turned into SOC 2. People need to have a standard to attest, I do this. We probably need to have a bill of material standard of saying, when I work, if I deliver a service for you or I buy a service, here's my bill of material. This is where my employees work. This is where, because there's another part that we keep forgetting, that knowledge workers also have a supply chain. Do you know all the contractors that you're operating, where they're coming from, what code they're ingesting, inserting, where they're bringing stuff in? You need to have a tighter control over your bill of materials everywhere. And this is a good opportunity for somebody to build a startup on, of automating, because the stuff like Black Duck and all the stuff that was built for open source is about 20 years old. And
application security, we should bring some experts on that. I think we'll have an episode with Chachal to talk about application security.
We should talk about application security, but because it's a little bit backwards. Mm-hmm. And we need something to be able to attest of, this is the bill of material of, this is what I delivered for you. And if it's a hardware and software solution, here's where all the parts are made of. Here's all the list of all your serial numbers. And if you don't know what the parts are, this is the problem. And that's kind of where my mind's at in terms of where CISOs should start thinking of. First, they need to ask themselves, do they view themselves as something that can be a target more than just, and if they do, they need to convince their boards that they could end up being a target. I'll give you an example. Remember that company that was down with COVID, Tyson, I think? The chicken company.
The chicken company, yeah. Tyson chicken, whatever they're called.
We don't know. They don't know, probably.
They actually had a big ransomware as well.
Yeah.
They've been under a ransomware attack around COVID time.
But think about this. Are they critical infrastructure?
Food is.
Like your milk.
Food is. I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, if you cannot provide food to people, there is shortage of eggs. It was a big deal. I don't know, a year or two ago, there was big shortage of eggs. Yeah. Prices were up. It was a big thing. It was part of the inflation.
So should the government regulate those things? Do they regulate? Do they mandate that they use Cisco, not Huawei? Because we know Huawei is basically operated by the Chinese army.
So basically, we're saying that everywhere, we're all using machinery and, everything is basically from China. And so it's a big question.
It's not just China. So think of the fact that until very recently, big chunks of the software written for U.S. retailers was built by Ukrainian and Russian companies and contractors.
Can they disconnect the chicken whatever manufacturing line from the internet in case something happens and just run it locally?
What happens if it has a modem?
Yeah.
Remember my Kindle 2, which updates the kids, had a built-in cell modem, an Edge 2.
Can you disconnect it though?
You need to know that it's there.
Yeah.
So this is
By the time you know that it's connected, it will take you. By the time the malware hits the chicken manufacturing line, you will not be able to.
it can
stop
it can just even slow it down, like a Ghost in the Machine. I was rewatching the Ghost in the Shell. Very good movie.
So you're saying China can just slow down the cranes, the chicken manufacturing, the whatever.
I don't want to be fear mongering. I'm just saying that you need to think of what your supply chain looks like. Seriously, look at your supply chain, and it's not. Gwen and I, the ex-Ort CFO, and we're talking about this. Of sometimes people need to do the basics, like really basics. Understanding your supply chain is not a hard thing. It's really not a hard thing.
It's your business, basically.
It's your business.
Right.
But most people don't care about this.
No,
it's
I
like,
think
it's
they
like
don't
cleaning
think
up.
it's possible.
It's like cleaning up your economics and your accounting.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody says, no. There's this accounting firm. They do magic. It's the same thing here. It's like brushing your teeth and flossing. You need to understand how your supply chain looks like. My grandpa, when he was running a store in Tel Aviv in the 60s, understood his supply chain. He understood that when he buys the vases and all that stuff, here is where they're manufacturers. Here how they get to Germany. Here's how the fact that it needs a truck to get to Italy, to get it into a port, to get to Israel. So he understood that if there's a strike in Italy, which happens every other week,
Sure.
it impacts his supply chain.
Yeah.
And that's
I actually think people think about that because that's the obvious. I don't think
people don't think about that.
And I do think that probably if you're running a factory, you do take in your calculations and stuff, the regular breakdown of a machine and you factor for that.
You hope
there
so.
is like, I hope so. I hope that they take, the regular whatever 5% breakdown of machinery that slows down stuff and that the regular maintenance. I think what they're not thinking of is this external force that might be messing around.
You're thinking of the fact that first they don't look at the security supply chain at all.
Yeah, that's
They don't look
so there
at
needs to be
they don't look at the IT supply chain at all. And most of the time they don't look at the manufacturing supply chain at all. They look at the supply chain of their critical infrastructure. So if I'm a chicken manufacturer, I look at how many chicks are laid, how many, I look at the food supply, I look at all these things because this is my critical chain. I don't look most of the time on who manufactured the packing machine. I don't look at who runs the firewall. I don't look at any of these elements.
because you're not expert in those things.
Well, you don't.
You're
need
an
to-
expert in the meat packing.
You're expert
itself,
in the meat
in
packing.
the chickens.
If you are, and this is the part where you need to understand that in a connected world, you need to understand a lot more.
So it sounds like part of SOC to call all those NIST frameworks. We need more of this infrastructure supply chain to be looked at.
Yes.
IoT recommendation, and it's a complicated, complex world.
Yes, it
we
is.
need to
And hopefully
understand
there's going to be service providers that can deal with a lot of these things.
Yeah, there are startups in the IoT, OT area.
And they should probably take care of bill of materials as part of what they do.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of where my mind's at. But having said all of the fear mongering, I actually don't think that this should be. I don't think this should be solved by us, and should even be of top of mind. It's something people need to be aware of. Like they should be aware of the fact that an asteroid can destroy the town that they live in, or the dinosaur can show up at any given time. Look at Jurassic Park. But they need to think about it at the same level of,
I think,
if you're a manager of a port, you should care about your crane and your crane supply chain.
yes, and somebody should tell you, buy the European stuff, don't buy the Chinese. Like, we don't fly, we fly Boeing or Airbus. We don't fly whatever
I don't think there is.
Chinese.
Speaking of Boeing, by the way.
Speaking
Yeah,
of Boeing,
Boeing.
maybe you shouldn't fly Boeing.
Exactly. Maybe you should look for an Airbus.
Oh, gosh. Yes, at least not the Max. Are you
No,
checking
the
that you're
Dreamliner
not
took a
flying?
dive.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I wish we had the choice not
I
to
wish
fly.
I would have known the supply chain, because Boeing used to be known for quality, but it was basically taken over by McDonnell Douglas, that is a piece of crap. And but they kept the good name and destroyed the brand name, and that's supply chain and bill of material understanding.
Yeah, they have huge quality issues. Actually, a guy that was a whistleblower to tell about, he was a quality control at Boeing in big Charlestown location. He sued them, and yesterday he committed suicide.
Ooh, sorry.
Nobody knows what happened to him.
Now you're
He
really
was a
Debbie
bit-
Downer.
Yeah, that's scary. Like,
It is.
what had really happened, and what did he know, and was he prevented from saying it?
Yes. Well,
So yeah, I don't trust Boeing these days. That's
but
a
that's
problem.
again a supply chain problem.
It's a supply chain. It's lack of competition. There's a lot.
Lack of
in it.
visibility.
Yeah. So with that, I don't think we have like a very positive ending. But
Yes, we do.
maybe it's all about just awareness, talking about that. And I think at the end of the day, more things will be manufactured in Europe and the US. So that's good.
I
I'm all
think
for
that-
the economy and local production here. I
And
think
I'm
it's
all
awesome.
for new startups. that
And
have-
that will also save the world, save us from just losing jobs for AI.
Yep.
Manufacturing needs to happen. So
that's the next
good.
episode.
That's the next episode. We'll talk about AI. So keep tuned. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Didi and Lital show. If you like us, please rate and review us wherever you get your podcast and share it with your friends. The Didi and Lital show is a weekly podcast. See you next week. Thank you. Thank you,
you.
Didi. See you.